I don't want to have him waiting. We are joined with the man himself, a damn good friend of the show, Caleb Maupin. How you doing, man? You doing okay, Caleb?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I am doing good. I'm actually in a relatively good mood despite one of my guests missing out. I lost my wallet earlier and it freaked me out. Freaked me out to know it. Because it's like when you're abroad, it's one thing if you're in the States and you lose your wallet. Okay, it's bad enough. It's another thing when you're abroad and you're like, oh my God, my card, my driver's license. It's like you can't get a driver's license. It's going to take weeks to get your card. It was just a mess. But they found it. Yeah, they
Oh,
found it.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, good.
So
You found it. Yeah, that's
so my
great.
mood immediately lifted. Just for the audience to know, Caleb Maupin, he's a speaker, writer, journalist, political analyst, and author. He's had several books. I'm going to ask you to give the audience those books because this one is old, but I think you have one that's coming out recently or coming out soon, right here. And what's the organization that you're working with, Caleb? It's the Center for
Center
Political
for
Progress.
Political Innovation,
Innovation.
CPIUSA.org. Yeah.
Right. You guys have recently had a meeting. I believe it was in Chicago, correct?
Yes, it was great. We had our convention. It was a great success. A lot of people were there, and we gave an award to Angela McCurdle, the organizer of the Rage Against the War Machine protests. We gave an award to the Uhuru movement, to their representative, for standing up against the FBI. We also, in addition to that, we gave an award to Reverend Milhan Stevens, who's worked for peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula and worked with us around raising, hope for peace with North Korea. We had different speakers. It was really, really a great event. And we recently signed a statement put out by the Islamic Human Rights Commission calling for action in Gaza to stop genocide. And we were one of 204 very prominent individuals from around the world who signed this declaration from the Islamic Human Rights Commission. And that's on our website. You can check that out. Our name is alongside with George Galloway and Tommy Sheridan and all kinds of very important folks, Sheikh Ibrahim Zakzaki from Nigeria, and all kinds of scholars and academics. And it was really an honor to be part of that effort to the United Nations. And we are looking at different things around the country. We're headed to a Palestine conference in Detroit with our book. You asked me about books. Well, we've got this book, Who Are the Houthis? What Are They Fighting For? About the Houthi movement in Yemen and their roots and origins. We've been distributing this book in bulk. And so we're planning to distribute, 1,000 copies of this at the upcoming Palestine conference in Detroit at the end of the month. And we have reading groups around the country, and we're excitedly looking at the possibility of, a peace deal breaking out. Let's see. The details of this peace agreement are not yet public, but it seems like there is a deal that is acceptable to Russia, and we could finally see the end of the war in Ukraine, and that would be amazing. I find I'm in a weird state of like disbelief. I want to see it happen. It ain't over till it's over, and it's just we've been so close before, and I've been hopeful this war would end before, and it hasn't happened. So let's see. But we have been out in the streets since the beginning of this war. Right after the special military operation began, we were in the streets of New York City. Russia is not our enemy. We had a conference in Austin, Texas in March of 2022. And trutherfiction.com had to publish an article about us to make clear it really happened and it wasn't an internet hoax, because we were in this in Texas with the flag of the United States and the flag of the Donetsk People's Republic. And, I've been to Russia. I spoke with the Russian president. We led the U.S. delegation to the World Youth Festival. We have been very, very, very active and vocal, calling for negotiations, peace with Russia, and this stupid Ukraine war that doesn't benefit average Americans. So I really, really hope that we're going to see an end to this conflict, but we shall see.
Okay. Yeah. Let's start there then. What do you think is the inspiration for Trump to try to move this quickly for talks? And to your point, Yushikov made the point of saying Russia has received an acceptable offer from the United States on settling the Ukraine conflict. Now, there are two things. One, I don't know if RT got this right. I don't know if what Yushikov was talking about was process, meaning we receive acceptable, let's say, offer for talks, or if it's we receive an acceptable offer for talks to end the conflict. And the reason I say that is I thought I have the clip right here. So this is the clip that I think RT is taking this from. Now, I hope you are absolutely right, and that Trump finally said, okay, I'm willing to accept Russian terms. And the Russians said, okay, whatever Trump offered, this is a good basis from which we can have a conversation in the conflict. I hope you're right. But I can't tell from this.
Было предложение стороны американцев, которое нам представляется вполне приемлемым. Вообще возможно.
There's a proposal from the Americans that we think are quite acceptable. Okay, is that quite acceptable for talks, or is that quite acceptable to end the war? I don't know. He's being very tight-lipped about it. Give me your take, though. What do you think was the impetus for Donald Trump to say, okay, let's move very quickly to have these talks with the Russians?
Well, my understanding is that the position of Russia and the position of Trump has been that they're not, going to meet simply to talk. They're going to meet to sign an agreement. That there would be no point in getting together to just have a photo op. So my understanding was that, if they said acceptable offer, that generally would indicate that there's an offer on the table to end the conflict. Now, the terms of that offer, I want to see what they are, because the reason we haven't seen forward motion yet has generally been that the USA has not been able to accept, has not presented anything to Russia that would be acceptable. Now, I don't know what's happening here. I will say none of this would be possible. And again, I am somebody, I wanted Trump to end this war as soon as he came into office in 24 hours, like he said he would. We live in the world of the possible and the reality, not, what we would like. But I do know that one thing that definitely opened the door for this was Tulsi Gabbard's revelations. It's not a coincidence that the Tulsi
Wait. You mean the Trump and Russia stuff?
Yes. If those documents had not been released, this wouldn't be happening because Trump was accused of being an agent of Russia. They were claiming that Trump only won the 2016 elections because of Russian interference and all of that. And if Trump didn't have a smoking gun to say, look, that is not the truth, that didn't happen, and we now have solid evidence that no, Trump did not win because of Russia. Russia did not interfere to support Trump in any way. Now that we have the smoking gun of that makes Trump politically safer to move ahead and make a deal with Russia. Also, it's very interesting that Pam Bondi, they've got a division of the Department of Justice that is looking to prosecute people for that. Right. And that also, that is Trump having a vehicle to perhaps threaten retaliation if there are forces that try to ruin this. Right. If there are forces that would normally move ahead to stop a peace deal from taking place, Trump is saying, now I have the Department of Justice. I can start prosecuting you for the Russiagate hoax. Trump is in a much stronger position against the forces that don't want peace with Russia and have been pushing for conflict with Russia for quite some time. And it's weird that mainstream media, I get the emails of Media Matters for America, which during the Bush years was quite critical of mainstream media in some ways. But, they can't deny what's been revealed by Tulsi Gabbard. They can't deny it. They can't say it's not true. They just say, oh, there's nothing here. It's not that important. It's like, it's pretty important. You guys said that Russia interfered in the elections to support Trump. That didn't happen. The intelligence agencies said, nope, Russia did not interfere in the elections. And after the elections, Obama gathered the intelligence agencies again and said, all right, let's see if they interfered. And they had said, once again, no, Russia did not interfere in the elections to support Trump. And then on top of that, it turns out Russia apparently had information about Hillary Clinton that could have swung things in favor of Trump, and they sat on it and they didn't release it. And that Hillary Clinton was having psychological problems, was having crying fits, and et cetera. They had information about her health and how she was lying about her health. And Russia sat on information they had about Hillary Clinton because they expected her to win the election. So if they had wanted to push things in Trump's favor, they very well could have done it. And they chose not to do it. And they were full on expecting Hillary Clinton to win. So they did not interfere to help Trump. And Obama basically told the intelligence agencies, we'll come back with a report that says they did, even though they didn't, even though your assessment is that they didn't. And they did that to taint the Trump presidency, but more than that, to push Trump into a situation where he couldn't make peace with Russia. And that this wasn't just a conspiracy against Trump on a personal level. This was a conspiracy against peace. That's what this really was. This was an effort to make it so it was very, very difficult for Trump to make peace with Russia because he was accused of being a Russian agent. And on top of that, it really, really did a nasty psyop on the left. I mean, the left became just so hyped up against Russia because they had Trump derangement syndrome, and Trump was blamed on Russia. And so now we see that, lie after lie after lie was told. They knew the Steele dossier, the PP tape or whatever, that wasn't real. And they released it anyway, and they promoted it anyway. And they knew it wasn't real, and that they just lied and lied and lied, because the fear wasn't just that Trump would be in office. They wanted to hurt his image. The fear was that Trump might actually get along with Russia, and that just couldn't happen. The war lobby was so determined to make sure that Trump came into office and was on the defensive about alleged ties to Russia that he wouldn't be able to make peace with them. So now that we have these documents, now that we have the smoking gun, we see that Russiagate was a complete hoax from the beginning. We have proof that they lied. And the Justice Department is, in theory, looking to prosecute people around it. That gives Trump the space to maybe move ahead and end this war in a much safer way than he could have before. When they call him a Russian agent, when they call him a Putin stooge, he can hold up papers and say, no, I'm not. And you guys lied about it, and you broke the law, and you engaged in mass treason to make that case. So Trump is in a much stronger position to actually move ahead with peace right now.
Yeah, I partially agree with that. Yeah, I partially agree with that. In fact, I think I even made the same argument that in one sense, this gives him space in a way that he didn't have. Like if you have this thing lingering on your head that, or he's a Russian stooge, it makes it very difficult for you to make any kind of agreements in that direction, because they're saying, well, Trump is just working with the Russians anyway. They got him elected. Whereas now you can pretty definitively show, well, that wasn't the case. They were using this stuff for political effect. They had a mass psyop on America, as you point out, to ensure that he doesn't make any kind of agreements, and B, looking at his willingness to make agreements as a weak point that they can effectively exploit. So I do agree with you on that front. I don't know what Bondi, if I'm being honest with you. These people of a particular class, and they usually don't go after each other, because if you do, you leave yourself open for somebody else to go after you. They tend not to do it. But maybe, who knows, right? I think
they went after Trump. That's the thing. They tried to throw him in jail. They gave him falsifying business records and all of that nonsense. And so he's going to fight back. And that's one thing that I've noticed a lot of these people on the left don't get, right? It's just kind of like, if you bring if you have a knife fight, you show up with a knife, the other guy's going to show up with a knife too. If you show up with a gun, the other guy's going to show up with a gun too. That's generally how fighting works. And so they try to throw Trump in jail. They call him Hitler. They do all this stuff. And then Trump, he comes into office and he's obviously going to retaliate. And it's like, do you think he's not going to do that? I mean, it's not a matter of right and wrong at that point when people's lives are on the line, when you have that level of political confrontation. If you try to throw Trump in jail before the election to keep him from winning, and he wins, there's a good chance when he gets in, he might try to put you in jail. That's how these things tend to work. I will say I am disgusted, utterly disgusted by the Pam Bondi upping the bounty on Maduro. Give me a break. Maduro is a drug dealer. We all know those drug gangs. There would be no drug crisis in South and Central America if it wasn't for the CIA, right? The Contras of Nicaragua in the 80s, the paramilitaries in Colombia that were backed by the CIA and armed by the CIA to fight against the FARC rebels in Colombia. The U.S. Intelligence apparatus has been very, very close to the cocaine and drug dealing forces. There's Gary Webb, the journalist who was killed because he revealed that, the Contras being armed by the CIA were flying cocaine into Arkansas when Bill Clinton was governor, and the CIA was letting them do it and making sure they didn't get prosecuted for doing it. And, the United States was flooded with drugs because of the anti-communist forces. And that's one thing, when you talk about a body count, right? We always told, well, communism's so bad, it killed 100 gajillion million, they give us some huge body count. what is the body count of the USA arming drug cartels in the 1980s against the communists in Colombia, against the Sandinistas of Nicaragua? That has led to the founding of all kinds of drug cartels. That led to a crisis all throughout that region. Add up all the dead bodies that have resulted in Mexico, in El Salvador, in Guatemala, in Honduras, in Colombia, in all throughout that region because of that policy of the United States in the 1980s of arming drug cartels. Add up all the dead bodies year after year after year after year. I mean, that has been some might argue genocidal in proportion. The USA backing drug gangs and extremists against anti-imperialist governments and arming them. That has resulted in deaths for decade after decade after decade. And it's a problem in that region that wasn't there before. I mean, yeah, there were drug dealers, but they didn't have anywhere near the power until the CIA started arming them and supporting them. They didn't have anywhere near the weapons they had. And now that's a problem throughout that entire region. That is just a problem that has just devastated it, held back development, kept people in poverty. I mean, it's just devastating. It was created by the United States. It wasn't created by Maduro. And I mean, the idea that Maduro is a drug dealer, oh, he's just such a dangerous drug dealer. It's Maduro. Oh, my goodness. What are they getting at? That was, yeah, you know, that Pam Bondi, you know, raising $50 million or whatever for Maduro. The other thing, though, is it's not going to work because it's already been high. There's been so many coup attempts in Venezuela, and the coup attempts fail because the military is loyal to Maduro. And if somebody in the military was going to go, oh, okay, I'll sell him out for millions of dollars, they would have done it by now, right? At this point, I mean, he has a trusted inner circle. He has a trusted military brass that are behind him. And, you know, there's nobody in the military brass who's going to say, oh, I was going to sell out Maduro for, I wasn't going to sell him out for 25,000. Now that it's 50 million, I'll sell him out. No, it's not going to happen that way, right? Maduro is solid and he's safe and he has a huge base of support. And, you know, Venezuela was in a really, really bad spot 10 years ago. After Hugo Chavez died, Barack Obama upped the sanctions and just devastated the country. I was there in 2015. I saw with my own eyes they couldn't get toilet paper. There were food shortages and all of that. But they've gotten over it. Their economy is growing again. They're strong once again. And Iran and Venezuela are very, very close. Venezuela has rebuilt itself, all kinds of Chinese investment, and Venezuela is very, very solid right now. They were in a bad spot, and they got through it. The last time Trump was in office, remember Marco Rubio and their allies really, really wanted to escalate into a war, and they got caught lighting their own food truck on fire. Do you remember that incident? Yeah. You know, they had a food truck going across the border, and they lit it on fire themselves so they could blame it on Maduro. And the hope was that they would then be able to provoke a U.S. military intervention or something. And they lit their own food truck on fire, and it was an absolute PR disaster. They got caught lighting their own food truck on fire. So, the USA needs to leave Venezuela alone. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. They want the oil. I mean, for all things being equal, they want, you know, geopolitical control, yeah, but they want the oil that's in the ground in Venezuela. Before going to Venezuela for a moment, what do you think about this notion that, yes, I give it to you. I do believe that the Trump-Russia stuff gave them space, but also the weakening of Ukraine on the battlefield. I mean, Russia is advancing, and the pace at which they're advancing is increasing. Whether Trump knows it or not, the people around Trump has to know it. And I know Zelensky has to know it. The protests that have been taking place in Ukraine, with 69% of the public saying, we want this war to stop. Meaning there's a huge amount of pressure that is being applied to Ukraine right now, and pressure that's being applied to the US with Trump coming out with his ultimatum that he's going to pass secondary sanctions on India and China, something that are going to have feedback effects on the United States. Meaning there's a crescendo that's taking place where Trump, or at the very least people around him, is aware of that this is going to be the best deal that they get. And if the Ukrainian military collapses on the battlefield, all bets are off.
Yeah, well, I mean, from the beginning, the Ukrainian public hasn't wanted this war. They voted for Zelensky on a platform of making sure this didn't happen. And he got into office and did the opposite. And he's the one who escalated things to the point that this war did happen. And the Ukrainian people at this point, they've dragged everyone off the street. And Trump recently answered a question at a press conference about how they're dragging elderly people off the street. They lifted the age of conscription up to 60. They've got disabled people. I mean, it's like there's no one left to fight. And for a while they could keep the facade going in mainstream media and just kind of ignore it. They can't ignore it anymore. Ukraine's got nothing left. And rather than end it in a way that is just absolutely, a debacle for them. You talked about the Ukrainian military collapsing. That might happen. If they end it in an epic peace deal where Trump handshakes with Putin and they sign it, and it looks like, and Trump is bragging. He says, "I've already prevented 5 wars, ended 5 wars. This will be number 6." Trump wants to save face. He wants to end this in a way that makes him look good. And I think that's been what's been causing the delay since he took office, is that Trump would like to end this in a way that he can look good. And that he was hoping he could end it in a way that looked good when he first took office, but that was not possible. And so it took a lot of things happening, the Tulsi Gabbard revelations, et cetera. And so now Trump is thinking, I can end this in a way that'll look good for me from a PR standpoint. And that was what will enable Trump to possibly end the war. Let's hope. I mean, the forces that want to keep this going are very, very evil and nefarious, and they are all kinds of, they know what they're doing, and they're pretty ruthless, as we're seeing with, the way that the European Union countries are not democracies anymore, basically. I mean, they're outlawing any party, any political party that might want peace with Russia, even though that's a majority sentiment in a lot of areas. I mean, the forces that want to keep going to war with Russia and keep confronting Russia are very ruthless, but it looks like, I think that we may actually see a peace deal. I really, really hope we do. But I mean, we can only
do
see.
you think he's going to be willing to accept Russian terms? And for that matter, see, what's fascinating to me is whether or not Putin's demands are maximalist. Because if they are not, and Putin is willing to, let's say, give some kind of leeway. For example, if Putin says, well, yeah, these regions are ours, but what we define to be these regions are effectively where we are now. Okay, well, that's leeway in a way that's, it's the way people tend to negotiate, where they will come down off the maximalist demands in order to make an overarching deal. But I guess the thing is, will an American president be able to accept Russian demands? That's always been the issue. Russia is winning the conflict. They know they're winning the conflict. They have no reason to accept a deal less than what they define in regards to their core values. The issue has always been that an American president, as you point out, wants to save face. And if he accepts Russian terms, they're going to call him a Russian, oh, you gave up, you gave in to Putin, et cetera, et cetera. That seems to have always been Trump's issue. Not that he loved Ukraine. He just didn't want to look bad in ending the conflict.
Well, you have to remember that the reason this hasn't happened is because, again, there have been all these unacceptable proposals made. The idea that Russia would say to all these people in Donbass who've been dying and getting shelled and attacked since 2014. I mean, they have a monument called the Alley of Angels to all the children who've been killed. The idea that Russia would say, all right, you know what? Yeah, they can go back to Ukraine. We'll our bad. Ukraine can just keep killing those people. Yeah, they voted for independence in 2014. Yeah, we arranged the Minsk agreement to have them stop being killed. Yeah, Ukraine didn't honor the Minsk agreement and kept killing them for 8 years. Yeah, we moved our military in. Hundreds of thousands of people died in a confrontation to protect these areas. Yeah, there was a referendum for them to join with Russia and become the new republics, new regions. Oh, but you know what? Yeah, Ukraine can have it back. No, they're not going to do that. That's just not realistic. Russia would not agree to that. Too much has been lost and too many chances have been given. If Ukraine was open to letting those folks be part of Ukraine in a way that respected their basic human rights, that would have been done from the beginning. This war never would have happened. The whole reason this war has happened is because Ukraine will not treat the people in Donbass like human beings, will not treat them as members of a Ukrainian society that have dignity. And it's been killing them and slaughtering them since 2014. Russia moved in to protect them. And if there is an acceptable agreement, I am fully confident that acceptable agreement includes the new republics remaining part of Russia. I think the issue is, where's the border going to be, right? I think that's the point of contention, and we don't know. And I'll be curious to see where that border is going to be. But Crimea is Russia. Donbass is Russia. Just where does the border go? Where is the line? That's what I think the whole world wants to see, where the line is. And I expect that wherever the line is going to be wildly unacceptable to mainstream media and wildly unacceptable to the European establishment, because their whole narrative just kind of ignores the reality and the humanity of the people of Donbass. And so they're going to be furious about wherever that line is. It could be right next to Russia, and they would still be angry about it. So they're not going to be happy with where the line is, but we'll see.